recording for the pod that will be used in a swarm situation in a scene. And basically, it's supposed to be somewhat simple because there's going to be a lot of them and probably being instanced in Unreal. So it's kind of lightweight. So there's an inner sleeve. And there's an outer sleeve, and then these are the kind of flanges. And probably not going to have time to do this, but this would be animated, kind of like gills on a fish. But we may just kind of pop them open so you can kind of see through it a little bit of a peek inside there. So probably going to flanges again. None of this has been UV mapped. So I'm going to work on that tonight or maybe this afternoon. Just go ahead and get it done. Also, this is going to probably be closed in a little bit further and maybe brought back a little bit more definition for this piece. This is something I have worked with in the past. Seems to be a reoccurring theme, but with this a little bit different. It may have some of these forms kind of echoing it or following it, or even particles kind of coming out from this kind of form that's parented to it. Or it may just be the pods. So the idea is that there would be maybe a small, medium, and large form of these pods, or we just stick with one and do a swarming with this. So probably about 200 or 300 of these swarming together, and I should probably right here I'm going to show the video of the barracuda swarming action right here, so I'll try to cut that in just a second. So this is what I have in Maya. Again, not that exciting. Hopefully maybe you can take it into ZBrush and accentuate some of this, at least the front panel part of it, to give it some sort of normal map or some texture. It really needs a lot. And right now I'm have it in 3 mode. Probably need some more verts so it's not too smooth. Let's see. Yeah, so I will be cleaning that up too. Again, a lot of work that needs to be done on that. All right, so I'm going to go to the pure ref files. I've also have given you this file too. So again, this is kind of the idea that these things are floating behind. And again, that's almost the main part of the lighting. There is no like spotlight. There's just kind of lights coming, maybe attached to these sonic booms, but mostly the illumination is coming off of these forms. So imagine like jellyfish in the middle of the night, they're being illuminated, so it's kind of lighting up the scene. So kind of the overall tone is a very almost a duotone or triotone color, very simple, kind of a gray with this kind of bluish color, and I like the way the scene where there's atmospheric quality to it, so the light diffuses through the scene. Probably not going to happen for us in Unreal, but hopefully that's something we'll shoot for in about 3 or 4 months. So the idea for these particles or these pods moving around are these kind of illuminations. And here it's a light source that's like kind of constellations. So the idea is that these are swarming around, probably like 10 times bigger than this, and more of kind of like the swarming barracuda that we just showed earlier. Again, kind of atmosphere. I kind of like that. That's something that we can think about to kind of break up the scene and also to grab the light. So I'm just going to kind of jump in. So this is basically, this is a drawing done almost a year and a half ago in New Zealand. So these were kind of meditative drawings here on the left, and then about an hour and 10 minutes timed to kind of flesh out what these things are doing. So you can already see here in the drawing that they're circulating, and there's this little form that kind of interacts with it. Again, not going to be able to flesh this out. We're just basically texturing it and just handing it off so someone can put it in Houdini and create kind of a swarming cluster. the idea is basically that these things kind of trace or follow the main form, and then maybe these are particles spitting out, and also kind of this aura of energy coming off of it. Not sure if we're going to be able to do that, or if we're just going to focus in on these main objects. So this could be something like a polygon plane, really thin, with transparency and stuff like that. So I really haven't thought of that all the way through. So anyways, that's the kind of the main driving force of what this pod is and how it's going to interact with us in the scene. So basically they're in the scene, but they're passive. You're not to interact with them. They're basically just kind of illuminate and then also set boundaries so you don't walk beyond the circle. So I saw this the other day. This was actually on someone sent on Instagram. It's actually a real image of an eyeball, which is hard to believe. But I thought that was really interesting, and I was thinking about how you could take this into ZBrush and really flesh this out. That's why I'm going to kind of go a little bit smaller with this area. And also some of this stuff could ridge and double back here. So it could play that it extends out with this ridge line. Also, this is not the color, but just ideas of colors and so forth. So in any ways, these are some of the colors. I haven't broken down the color yet, but I'm thinking more of a pink fleshy tone is what I'm kind of drawn to. I think this is the image that you should probably focus in, or maybe this one. And anyways, that's just a breakdown for that ring. And then there's this other images that kind of help give you some ideas for textures and so forth that I've included. Probably not so much this or that, but just the idea of the opening and other textures. Again, this is a kind of a color scheme that I'm looking for in these two for the overall on the pod. Kind of everything is kind of the blue and pink, similar to the maxi form. But I'm really should probably break this down a little bit further for you, kind of break down the color at least for 4 or 5 images so you can kind of have a template of what to do for the color. So I was really interested in this. We talked about the eye at the front and then dissipating into the back. So I thought this could be kind of that flow. Let me flip this around so you can imagine this eye here and then how this kind of breaks apart and has these tendrils or kind of a linear movement. Since this is going to be moving forward, it makes sense that there would be kind of linear lines following whatever impact that we put in the front of this design. And I think this is really where we're going with the color. It's almost identical to probably the maxi, but again, make sure it's different and differentiates itself differently from the other one. Some of the color tones I've chose were these 3. These are really kind of the direction. There's also reds I don't really like, but I put them down there. I'm really kind of leaning toward pink, and if somehow you can add the yellow, and then this popped up. I really like how that is all flowing together with the yellow is kind of interesting. So if there's a way to think about how to infuse pink and yellow, those are it. So there's a lot of cool images on how the flow lines could happen. Again, this is the fashion designer that we looked at before. Just some other textures. Anyways, any way that we can add lots of textures so it's not smooth and perfectly aerodynamic, but at that front, if there's a way to really rib it up and have all these little undulations, this is really ZBrush territory, and also textures and substance with the rest of this and with coloring. So I'm really excited about basically the front and that outer shell here. Now we do have flaps that you just saw me in the Maya describe how the flaps would kind of be going in and out. I think I'm just going to have them quarter open to kind of see in, but not really concerned about it animating. I think it's just too much to do in 10 days. But I really love how you can see through this opacity and also kind of this feeling, texture, how the light hits it, and also these lines and so forth, maybe openness, even full-on transparency. It could be another way of seeing through the surface. So think about that as part of the design, maybe an alpha channel in here so you can see through it with these pockets are really beautiful. And then I really love the edging of this, kind of echoing, these kind of echo each other, very organic, and it could be rough. It doesn't have to be like smooth, perfect. It could have weird sense to it. Again, this is a kind of this color scheme that we're looking at these 3 and 4 for the overall object, kind of blue, pink, and a little bit of yellow. And then obviously transparency so you can see through it. So a lot of images here for ideas how things can be transparent. You know, I love textures, but the textures could be a little bit more organic. Again, transparency is kind of key in specific spots, maybe not everywhere. There should be some opacity on things. So anyways, just some crazy ideas. Also how the transparency works here. All right. Again, hopefully tonight I'll update this peer ref and have kind of the top 5 color schemes. And as I'm doing this, I'm just kind of walking and talking. As I'm doing that, I'm really thinking this, and those 5 for the color, and then really like nail it down with these. So I'll break down these into color charts here, so you can do maybe a color picker with that in ZBrush, so you can focus in on the color. So this is the inner sleeve. I need to stretch this out. It's very shallow. I want to make it a little bit deeper. I think it's ending here. I need to make it go a little bit further. Again, I'll have this all UV mapped so you can get started, and sorry for the delay. So an inner sleeve, not as dominant, but we've looked at this image before. I'm really liking this. Any way to get texture in there, and then the big thing is getting it to illuminate with emissive lighting. So anything that we can do that's cool inside with really strong emissive lighting. And so I'm really looking at these 3, imagining obviously emissive is here, and they're here. But like, what could this look like if it was emissive, if it was scattered onto that surface? Okay, and then you can use that as an idea. Again, this doesn't have to be like beautifully done, but the edging has some sort of feel and flow to it like this, a frosting. And as we get into inner, maybe a little bit more transparency, and then really pepper it up with some sort of texture that's directly emissive, so we can have it pulsing as it's glowing, as it's spinning around. All right, there may be 2 of these inside, and then basically it's inside the sleeve. And so you'll only see it maybe very briefly. Obviously you won't see it. It's just kind of part of the drawing. So it was supposed to kind of follow and kind of crawl around it like a spider. So right now it's kind of dormant, sitting inside. So I really love this. It could be very, very simple, just a frosting and a little bit of texturing, peppering it up. That one I wouldn't spend too much time, but really frost out the tips, and that way we can somewhat see a silhouette. And I like how you can see a silhouette here, but still be a little bit of opacity to that. All right, and at the very end, this is the outer particles. And if we run out of time, you can probably chop this on the chopping block, but this could be a very simple thing to do. Just some sort of silhouette form, or some sort of, could be very stark opacity, maybe just a little bit of texturing on it. I like how they end and start points here. This could be the total blueprint for this. And again, go back to our color scheme that we've selected and adjust it. Anything with texture to kind of work on this form. Keep it very simple. It is a very simple form. And then for the clovers, it could almost be verbatim that, and frosting on the edges. I think you've already done this on the maxi, so you can almost take what you've done on the maxi and copy and paste, but it's going to be very, very small. So there's no reason to put a lot of energy into this, because they're going to be teeny, and really no one's going to get up closer than that because it's going to be in the distance and it'll be moving. So, all right, that's what I have so far. Sorry this has been super late, but I will develop some color charts. We'll upload everything now, but I will update color charts on the colors here on this guy. Also maybe a color chart on this guy, these two guys, and a color chart definitely on these three guys. I think those are really kind of the driving force of the color. And, you know, stuff like this, I'm not going to do a color chart. It's just really just white and gray, right? Or white and transparency. I want to stop for now. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions.